So yesterday, Blizzard released a video called Inside the Game, and it's about a sneak peek into Diablo 4's Season 5. Now, there has been some controversy about Season 5, as pretty much every kind of season Blizzard always puts out for some reason, but this is going to be a little bit different. Now, there was a PTR for Season 5 recently that had some feedback, and hopefully they've addressed that in this video, but let's go ahead and take a look at it together because honestly, I haven't seen it yet, and it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to be cooking up for this next season, and hopefully I have enough time from mapping to do this season as well, because I'm going to be very busy with a lot of content, so let's jump in and find out. So here we are with the brand new trailer, and the first thing I noticed was that the like to dislike ratio is actually pretty good. I'm kind of excited to see because normally a lot of these trailers haven't done very well in terms of the YouTube like to dislike. So let's go ahead and watch this together and find out how it turns out.
We've been saying this whole time that hell is coming. Now, hell is here.
It's something that's always present in a Diablo title, and we wanted to make sure that for Diablo 4, returning to hell was a special moment.
I think, honestly, when they say returning to hell, hell should have been there from the very beginning, honestly. I feel like 5 seasons later to get back into hell for the first place kind of seems a little bit late in my opinion, but hopefully the art style and everything really does push it through, because that's one thing I feel like was missing from D4 was Diablo himself, and also just the more grotesque side of what hell could actually do. So hopefully this season really pushes that barrier in that art style. But let's keep going.
Reference the endgame cinematic with Prava and Inarius taking the fight to hell at the end of the game. We really wanted to capture that experience, that sensation of battling throngs of demons in hell.
That'd be a cool idea.
In the Inferno Hordes, they're going to go into this mode, battle waves of demons, and be able to kind of change the shape of the game experience as you play it.
Those of you who have joined us since base game and throughout the seasons will have noticed that we have this phenomenon in the world that's going on called hell tides. Some of you might have noticed that hell tides have been getting a lot worse lately. And
okay, what when he says hell tides are getting worse, I don't actually think he means legitimately getting worse via player base. I mean, I think he probably means in terms of, like, you know, just playing the game, there's more monster density and more things are happening and enemies are being vomited out. I think that's kind of what he means. More of like a story-wise reason why hell tides are getting worse. They've actually improved hell tides quite a bit, which I'm pretty happy about.
Now hell is able to pierce the veil that's holding hell back from fully invading Sanctuary and starting to take root in Sanctuary. And we started by asking ourselves some questions. What is the state of Sanctuary right before the Vessel of Hatred happens? How has hell changed now that Mephisto isn't there anymore? What are the demons up to?
where is Mephisto? Does he have anything to do with this, or is this?
Well, we know where Mephisto is going. Correct. Like we know where he's going right there. I think, honestly, the veil should have been pierced in the main campaign of the game. Like, just on a personal level, I feel like this kind of stuff should have been done there from the very beginning. And although it's nice to see them doing it now, it feels like there should have been just far more aggressive with it when the campaign was first launched, rather than this long dovetail kind of a style that they're doing right now. But still, let's keep going.
It's just hell rising of its own accord, as the prophecy proclaimed.
And so we thought to ourselves, how can we make things even worse for the people in Sanctuary?
In this season, you'll very much get to dive into those mysteries with some unlikely allies and really get to the bottom of what's happening. So in this season, we play a lot with the notion of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. How far would you go to save Sanctuary, to save your world? What price would you pay? Would you?
I think right there, trying to ask that question and not looking into Diablo 1 for the original main character is kind of like, why would you ask that? I mean, the price you should pay is shoving the soul stone into your face and then being like, oh, I'm the bad guy now. Like, I think that's where they should have, like, go into it. When I mean, like, terms of gore and, like, disturbing behavior, I think that's where they should, like, really look into the past of what Diablo did back then, where it wasn't as terms of, like, scary and visually what you see, but it was more what you didn't see that made things more terrifying, honestly. Especially when you see Diablo untransform into your basically brother after you've shoved the stone into your face. which is kind of cool.
You sacrifice your soul for this. You're going to meet a guy named Lochran, who at first seems sort of usual, but you're going to quickly realize that something is off, that something is a little strange with this guy.
So Lochran and Estelle are your allies, and they're going to help you return to hell. Both of them are experts in demons, and they're going to use that knowledge to help you.
Wait, is the other person that's with Lochran the Crow, and that's the other character? Because we saw that, right? Like, we saw the crow that was there. Let me see if I can go back to it. Oh, no. Okay.
And they're going to help you return to hell. Both of them are experts in demons, and they're going to use that knowledge to help you return to hell and become more powerful to be able to battle the infernal hordes.
All right, if they did something like a Hell Ascendancy class, I think that would be sick as shit. Like, if they were like, you're going to go into hell and be even more powerful, now give us like a Hell Ascendancy for each specific class, I think that would be great. Or like a mini tree of skills that you could pick from, like hell-based skills would be kind of cool too. So I'm just talking off the top of my head what I would like from this kind of thing with that, which is what they're kind of like going with, which I think would be the ideal thing to do, honestly.
The Infernal Hordes is a new endgame activity in Diablo 4. It's primarily a wave-based activity. You're going to be fighting wave after wave of demon forces in hell.
So if any of you have ever played wave-based gameplay before, you'll know that things escalate.
We've got meteor strikes and all sorts of things that try to keep you on your toes.
One thing.
All right, this is where I have a really big problem with just Diablo in general. As you can see, they talk about we have really big meteor strikes, but there's the main character right there, and there's the player, and he's standing in the circle where the meteor is going to be hit, and you cannot see it, right? You can see it now because I paused it, but as you're playing in game and effects are going off, this is not a good way of symbolizing a meteor is going to be landing by having a small flame and then a barely almost a barely coherent circle that is not even close to being like opaque. It's totally transparent basically. And then as they say it, he gets
one thing the Infernal
nailed
Hordes
by
does
the meteor. So I don't get
the
that.
notion of infernal offers.
And between each wave, you'll make a choice. You'll be granted an infernal offer, and by choosing one of three of these offers,
slaying arithmetic masses will slow you 8 seconds. While slowed this way, you have unlimited resources. Okay, so I'm guessing that's like mana and things like that. Okay, so you could have unlimited resources but be slowed for 8 seconds.
You're going to change the game mode.
Aether Lord on death. Masses spawn Aether Lord on death. Aether Lords grant 3 Aether. Okay, or Ether, I guess. All right.
In some way, a positive and a negative.
You can imagine from the depths of hell, these hands rise out and offer you both a boon and a bane, a kiss and a curse.
Okay.
And this is a temptation that the Fel Council is making to you. And in this temptation, you're offered more power, but that
Elite damages plus 25%. Ether fiends grant 1 ether.
power comes at a cost.
Okay. Hellfire rains upon you. At the end of each wave, spawn 1 to 3 ether. Okay, so I guess you're just trying to just escalate it, which is really, I hate to say it, kind of boring, honestly. If all we're going to be doing is escalating damage and or area of effect types, then that's going to be pretty bland and basic. So you can just kind of like steamroll it. It needs to be more creative than just from what I'm seeing right here. It has to be things like you gain additional projectiles or your projectiles return, but enemies now have additional resistances or something along that nature, or enemies explode and spawn more enemies as you kill them, but you have multiple projectiles. Like, it has to be, I think, more dramatic for people to actually want to have these things specifically happen, for them to say, okay, here is a true positive and negative from what I'm doing. But it just, if it looks like this, and if it's just like, oh, hellfire rains down and you get more ether, okay, fine. Or if it's like, oh, 25% more damage from elites, yeah, okay, number go up, fine. Like it just, it needs to be more, in my opinion, dramatic, like I said before, to really make people want to sit there and say, okay, this is how I kind of want to experience this or do this or pick this one specifically, or this positive totally outweighs the negative. Like I said, returning projectiles, additional projectiles, your area of effect is increased by 50%, but enemies are 50% stronger. Like something along those lines I think would be a good thing as well, to be more drastic, not just these. Hopefully this is just like a level 1 type version and not like the later stages of the Helltide. I'm sorry. The wave base.
And so you get to choose, which temptations you're going to pursue during your Infernal run, and then customize your experience from there. One of the guiding principles of this game mode is replay. It's an in-game mode that we want to make sure you're playing over and over again. So we really wanted to create a broad set of enemies for you to fight during this mode.
We've got many demons to choose from in the lexicon of Diablo's monster families, but we're also going to see some other foes you might not expect.
There are going to be certain types of enemies like goatmen who have been banished to hell that have now rallied to Mephisto and fight by his side. And even some unlucky souls that marched on hell from the Cathedral of Light have now been revived. And
how? Remember that last video I made where everybody was really angry about me? The fact that we didn't get a paladin. How cool would it have been to get a blood knight? Like as a character class, we could have gotten a blood knight. It's right there. Or like a hell knight, or like something that we could have had as a paladin class. It's just been turned dark from the hell masses, and they're trying to bring him back to the light in the church. And that could have been an entire storyline or arc for that paladin to this is just so frustrating now seeing this, especially that they're just talking about this right now. They had it right in front of them and they went, okay, you know what? everybody's going to get mad at me again for my hot takes.
Hell and fight against you alongside the demons.
Basically, everything that hell has to throw at you, we're throwing it at you this season.
The Infernal Hordes has been built with multiplayer in mind.
I like the new cosmetics that they have here. Those look really good. Everybody's wearing the same kind of cosmetic though. I'm wondering if they can have like different colors and tiers depending upon like which council members you fight or get those items from. Hopefully they're not all the same. It would be cool to have like one directly for each specific kind of class with a different color, so you can clearly see your party members if you're partying up like that. I think that'd be cool.
But multiplayer is not required. We want to make sure that solo players still have a very fun experience in the Infernal Hordes.
Yeah.
Now that said, if you roll in with a party, you're going to have a lot of fun.
This game mode is going to appear in the Eternal and in the Seasonal realm, and that means that once the season is over, it's here to stay.
So it's staying in the core. Okay. If it's staying in core, then I want to know how it's going to combine in terms of necessity with doing Nightmare Dungeons, the Pit, and the Infernal. Like, I hope what I want to have happen is that each one will sort of like bleed into the other one, and you want to do one to do the other, or you gain bonuses in one, or you do one to gain bonuses in another, or like first, like there's different items or types of crafting materials you can pull from each kind of one to then craft your items to. Like, if they're just going to sell them off as different things, then it's going to be the same problem we had with the Pit from the last season, and it's just going to be just running this constantly just to get bigger numbers, rather than like, how can I use this mechanic to make my character go stronger, but give me a reason to do this mechanic besides number go up. Like that's what I think is really missing from a lot of the end game content with D4, but that's just another hot take from me.
Infernal Hordes is unlocked at World Tier 3, so really what you need to do to access it is earn your way up to World Tier 3 and then complete an Eternal quest line that takes you back to Hell and then unlocks the Infernal Hordes. For World Tier 1 and 2 players, we've built out a seasonal progression that'll help them become more powerful in order to be able to confront the Infernal Hordes. First is you can earn reputation, and that reputation applies to a reputation track.
Current the Mother's Gift rank. So there's an actual rep rank that you can do that. They had that with the Helltides last season. I thought that was actually pretty good. But I think the big problem with rep grinds is that you will out level them faster than you can complete them. So the rep grind has to keep up with the leveling scale, in my opinion. So that by the time you're in World Tier 3, this is all done. Or the rewards that you unlock when you're in World Tier 3 match World Tier 3 stats. I think that would be the better way of doing it, honestly. Just a little tidbit of info right there from a personal take.
That earns lots of really cool rewards that'll make
There's
you
20
more
ranks.
powerful
Okay.
as you progress onto World Tier 3. The other thing we've built are micro-dungeons called Hell Breaches that offer a glimpse at the Infernal Horde's mechanics. And they give you a chance to learn the mechanics before you confront the Infernal Hordes at World Tier 3.
Okay, so like a little mini
The final
taste before
boss
you go.
in this season
Okay.
is the Fel Council.
And
There
the
it
Fel
is.
Council is some familiar faces that you might recognize from Diablo 2.
They look good.
These were priests of the Zakarum, holy men who were corrupted and basically became vessels of hatred in their own right.
The
Yep.
council members in Diablo 2 tried to help contain Mephisto in his soul stone. And of course, Mephisto being Mephisto,
Yep.
slowly but surely corrupted them. And eventually they had soul stones pierced into their hands and became super powerful. But eventually you overcame them and sent them to hell. Through the course of the story, resummoned them. They've been reborn, slightly new powers, but the same animosity toward you.
What's interesting about this boss encounter is there are 5 council members, but you're only going to fight 3 of them at once.
This allows us
5 members, but you're only going to fight 3 at once. So that means people are going to be looking for specific council member combinations to try and min-max which council members they're actually going to fight and which ones are going to be worth the actual mechanic that's being done. That's going to happen. It happens in World of Warcraft. It's going to happen here. If they all drop the same loot, then it really won't matter. If they all drop independent kinds of loot and their loot tables are all different, then it may be a little bit trickier. But also, it'll also be the mechanics that each one does, which will determine whether or not people will actually enjoy this fight. Because you could have 3 of the actual council members that have really bad mechanics that you don't like that combine very well to one-shot you, or you have 2 of them which are pushovers and 1 that you're as mildly annoyed by. So it's going to be tough to see how they balance this and how they work through this, because that will be something different to see as well.
to then create many different flavors of the boss fight for the Fel Council.
So you have like 9
in fact,
combos.
It's about 10 variations
okay,
in all.
10.
And so every time you go into that council fight, there's a very good chance you're going to have a different fight than the last time you played it. We think it's going to offer a lot of replay for players. What we also introduced during these waves are opportunities.
Would be cool if they had the council members combine from 5 into 1 giant council member, like a Voltron council member, in like some really disgusting, horrified monstrosity that you then have to fight, like the size of a world boss, as like an uber version of the council members. I think that would be super cool, because then if you clear all different kinds of combinations, you can then get into that ultra uber style, and they kind of like, it would be cool if they would like rip each other's arms off and start slamming it onto each other and like becoming this weird, grotesque thing that you had to fight, and then it would just have different mechanics from each one all at the same time. You could take my ideas, Blizzard. It's perfectly fine. I have no problem with it. It's cool.
For you to earn ether. Burning ether is the resource that you gather during the Infernal Hordes that you can then spend at the end of the activity.
There's going to be a fixed number of waves that you have to defeat, and once you've completed all those waves, then you'll face the Fel Council, defeat them, and collect your treasure.
Okay.
So upon defeating the Fel Council, the spoils of hell will spawn, and then you consume your burning ether and opening those chests. Now, the trick is, when you are playing through these waves, that's your opportunity to earn as much ether as you can. Different events are going to spawn all throughout the waves, around the periphery of the arena, and it's your job to try and defeat as many of those events as possible to try and gather up all the ether you can.
So they're going to have events at the same time the waves are happening. Okay, so that's a good way of doing it, but they have to make sure the events are at least capable of doing something different every time, and it's not the same kind of event, which I think would really drag down a lot of players, especially if they're doing it over and over. Remember, this is a ARPG. You have to do things multiple times over and over. And if the events aren't engaging or fun, then that could just be boring and people will just ignore them completely, and they'll try to min-max ways of just completing the waves faster to get more ether that way rather than doing the event. So the event has to be worth it and also be engaging. So I think the spoils of Ether from the events have to be quite a bit higher than just completing the actual Infernal Horde waves and just going through that faster. Kind of like how maps work in PoE. Are you going to juice the map and stay in the map longer, or are you just going to burn through maps to get more loot that way? So you kind of have to be able to pick and choose that.
Really skilled players are going to be able to really maximize that Ether so they get the biggest payout possible at the end after defeating the Fel Council.
Okay.
So with this burning Ether, you'll be able to get new uniques, you'll be able to get new legendaries, you'll be able to get rare materials, things you might have scoured the whole of Sanctuary for in previous seasons or in the base
Uber
game,
uniques.
but now we offer it to you here, down in the depths of hell.
A lot of these new uniques and legendaries really build on top of this idea that they've been forged in hell. And so they're going to have unique looks that you can then make into cosmetics to apply wherever you like. They can also have unique VFX and sound effects to really create the sense that they were forged in hell.
That's a cool idea, because then it gives you a reason to go in there and like to do those waves and to do all that stuff. So that's a good way. There should be more though, instead of just having those specific uniques. And those uniques should in fact be build defining. I really think they should be. I think if you're going to want people to go in there, those uniques should be defined and say, hey, look, this is going to make or break your build. So you should do this. I think that would be the better way of doing it too.
One particular one that I enjoy using a lot are boots. Boots, you say? Well, these boots not only have been forged in hell. Whenever you use a power with a cooldown, they shoot out a ring of fire that hits everyone around you. That's just one sample of the types of powers we're exploring.
So we could just do CDR, reduce that cooldown to basically almost nothing, and then just spam those boots all the time. Increase AoE, and then just kind of like run through the... That's where my mind goes. That's where my mind goes. Reduce CDR to as much as possible, and then just... Or increase CDR, excuse me, to as high as possible, and then just spam some sort of dash or mover ability to just keep going through and just burning through that entire Nightmare Dungeon or the wave and just zipping around the map. That'd be the way to do it.
So death in the Infernal Hordes is quite a big deal. You're returning to the realm of hatred where Mephisto was born. Like, this has to be a big deal.
In the Infernal Hordes, it's a lot like Nightmare Dungeons. You only get a fixed number of revives in order to be able to get to the end of your run. So at lower difficulties of the Infernal Hordes, you'll get a number of revives shared between your party, but at higher difficulty levels, the game is going to start taking away those revives, and that increases the stakes that you have.
If you die too much, you'll be ejected from the mode. In the Infernal Hordes, we created a lot of new ways for monsters to ambush the players, and so I'm pretty stoked to see how our players respond to these.
The season...
That's going to be a fun one to see as well. I think if you're going to ambush players and it's not done in a way where the players feel that it's fair, or that they could have gone through it and then just lose an actual, I would say, life or entry into the Infernal, then that may not be fun and the response may not be what you're expecting. Hopefully it's balanced correctly. We'll see.
Seasonal quest line and the Eternal quest line, they have lots of little surprises and twists and turns in them. And there's even some surprises we've buried deep within the Infernal Hordes that hopefully players will have a great time with.
I think if they're going to do anything like that, and it's going to be very Mephisto driven, then it should resemble pretty much what Mephisto's lair looked like in D2, with a lot of like gold and just treasures and things along that nature. Just very like this ostentatious sort of like huge thing, and then like it just has to look like that, right? With the candelabras everywhere and just like stuff like that. I think that would be, and just blood all over the floor and things like that nature. That would be very cool. Honestly, this seems like a neat idea. It just has to get executed correctly. Oh, no kidding. August 6th? That's in what? A whole week away. So the whole new season starts next week. Well, 6 days from the day of this video going live. That's crazy. I'm glad I finally got to maps and PoE, because then I can just jump into this. I'm going to rant for a second here. I really feel like this is going to be a good idea. It's just about the execution of what is actually being done with this sort of mode and this mechanic. And the fact that it's going into standard, or in just whatever they call it, I call it standard because of Path of Exile, but it's going into the Eternal Realm, excuse me, then that means that they put a lot of work and thought into it. I feel like it's going to need a bit of tweaking from my perspective, from what they've been saying. There could be some scenarios where things just are a little bit over-tuned or even under-tuned, honestly. Also, can we give more space between seasons of other games, please? I just did Last Epoch. I couldn't even finish the timelines there. I then had to go to PoE. I just got to maps, and then now next week I got to do this. So, man, okay. I'm going to have my work cut out for me. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this video and about the new Season 5 trailer for Diablo 4. You're going to be testing it out and playing it. It's only a couple of days away. Well, we're going to check it out on this channel as well and find out. Now, look, we just broke 1,000 subscribers. And I just want to say thank you guys so very much for that as well. If you like this kind of content, you want to see more, subscribe. We are on our way to 2,000 subs, so I really do appreciate it. With all that being said, though, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you next time.